before you start.
Hello and welcome to the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We are live on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. I am your co-host, Judy Forder, and I am here with my co-host in peace,
Kris Burke. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. And today's topic, we're keeping it nice and light, waking up from your childhood worldview.
Aha. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I feel like we have to tell people, right? I feel like we have to say that yesterday, no, actually, because it was Monday. Monday, we always toss the topic around a little bit just to get the wheels turning, send it to the back of the mind and let whatever is going to work. So Monday, we looked at the topic and we just went, okay. Whose bright idea was this? Yeah, but what's happened actually is that we have, of course, received incredible inspiration. So we're pretty excited about this show.
Yes, we are. And before we get started, because we're going to reference the map again, because it's what we do here. Remember, you can download your own map at www.masterfulu.com is that what you called it? / get-your-map.
Yes.
Yes, there it is. Thank you. The wonderful woman behind the curtain.
Yeah. And we're adding some fun things at that page. We're going to take the videos that really introduce the map and put those on that webpage so that you'll be able to go there and see the introductory videos without trying to kind of catch up if you've just started watching. So that'll be really helpful. And by the time you're watching this, it'll be up. So just go look. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so today's topic, waking up from your childhood worldview. Big.
It is big. It is big. And if everybody just looks at this map for a second, especially if you're new, notice on the left of the map, we've got the two zones of experience. So you're experiencing life. If you're in the bottom left, it's from your instincts. If you're in the upper left, it's from your intellect. It's a thinking game. Okay. Based on what you already believe, based on your past experiences, and therefore what you're able to forecast or predict given what you know from the past. On the right hand side of this map, we've got intuition, which is very much it's a sensing. It's in the moment you get oh, I feel like I should do this, and we don't know why. We don't necessarily know how, but we get the sense that this is something we should do. And on the upper right-hand side, we've got inspiration. And so that's when ideas pop in and you feel like, oh, I have to take action. And usually there's energy with it that kind of excites you and makes you want to follow through. So these four zones, the two on the left are in one worldview, and the two on the right are in a second worldview. And what we're going to do now is bring up kind of a picture of what that looks like. Just bring up our world views, if you would.
Okay. Yep. And for those of you that aren't watching the webcast, remember, the map we're talking about, instincts are zone 1, intellect is zone 2. And just so you can get that straight in your head. Instincts, intellect, zone 1, zone 2. That's the left side of the map. Right side of the map is zone 3, intuition, zone 4, inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at our world views that's in front of you now, right at the bottom of each of those lists, it also says what Judy just pointed out. Because as I was putting together this lovely handout, I had the same thought, which is people are going to want to know, want to have that reminder. So Let's see. Our worldview. So what that really means is growing up, everybody's heard of the dog eat dog um, world that we live in, or the dog eat dog worldview,
Mhm.
right? And certainly for most of my childhood, for most of my life, right? Until I was, well into my 40s. I believed that I was living in a battleground, in a kind of vicious, you know, every person, man, woman, and child for themselves, win lose kind of competitive landscape. And part of what we're doing here is wanting to share with people that yes, indeed, the battleground experience is available to everybody, and a lot of people are living it, but there's a completely different experience, fundamentally different experience, and we think better, don't we, Judy?
We do. And I know that, when in the battleground, you feel like you have no choices.
Mhm.
You feel like you're stuck. You feel like this is the best it's going to be. I know for me, I would literally respond when people said, "How you doing?" I'd say, "Working to get through the day."
Right.
And that just kind of covered all of it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know about the surviving versus thriving. Right? That's really what we're talking about here. Is that on the battleground, what do you hope to do? I mean, some people hope to win,
Mhm.
but most of us don't really care to battle that much. We really just want to survive the day, to live another day.
Yeah.
So that's where our focus is. And the idea that we could ever get into a place where we don't feel under constant attack seems unrealistic, airy fairy, like that's for dreamers.
Mhm.
And actually, that's not true. The oasis is, well, we would say even more real than the battleground. But we need to kind of work through our battleground worldview and let pieces of that go as we learn the new, in order to have that experience, because those battleground frameworks will get in the way of our joy.
Yes, because in the battleground, um, happiness and joy is not a number one priority.
No.
It's getting your basic needs met, and people in the battleground do feel that they're thriving, but they also um, wait for the other shoe to drop. We've been
Yeah.
hearing that a lot lately. Like things are going well in my life. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So there's that underlying tone of anxious
Mhm.
and not trusting,
Yeah.
which prevents you from feeling the joy and happiness to its fullest extent.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if you imagine that we're on a battleground, right? Our number one priority, if we don't think, on a battleground, somebody's trying to win and somebody's trying to lose, or I guess I should say everybody's trying to win. But on the battleground, somebody's going to win or some group is going to win and the other groups are going to lose. That's the nature of the game.
Mhm.
And so the best that you can hope for is to win. And if you don't believe yourself capable of winning, then the best that you can do is to avoid the winners. It's like it's to protect yourself. It's to keep yourself safe. There's no peace on the battleground.
No.
So you're not even looking for it because you're not hoping for peace. What we're hoping for in that battleground worldview is just to avoid the people who are out to win at all costs, because they can be, a bit much. Let's just say they can be a bit much, right? Our world history books would show us how people get when they decide that they want to be in control of everybody else, because that's how they will perceive themselves to win. And that's not a real healthy state to be in.
No, and in the battleground, there's always that belief that it's either this way or that way.
That's right.
Your mind is not open to it can be both.
Mhm.
possibly, or there's a little bit of I'll take this and a little bit of I'll take that because that's what feels right to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not taught to trust what we need. We're not taught to trust our guidance, our intuition. We're not taught to even think that I can take a little bit from here and I can take a little bit from there and I can throw the rest away. I can
Right.
take what works for me.
Right. Right, absolutely. And in fact, that takes us into the perceiving and sensing, right? The difference in that. Um, when we're perceiving, we're actually doing it in the context of our worldview and all of the beliefs that go along with it, right? So we've got all of these beliefs about what's right, what's wrong, who's better, who's worse. A lot of the beliefs in the battleground are based on good and bad, right and wrong, black and white.
Right. And
So,
when do we establish those beliefs? I love it when you bring that fact up. Our belief system is established by what age?
by the time we're 7, it's pretty well cemented.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 years old. Children without any idea that we've even created a belief system, or that there is a belief system, or that that belief system will unconsciously, emotionally drive every one of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors until we become aware of it and choose to reframe it or rework it if we choose to.
Mhm. And it's all from what we pick up going around us. Not only what we're been told, not only what we've been taught, whether at home or in school, but it's a lot of the subconscious things.
Yeah.
I had something come up with me this past week that I didn't even know lived within me, and it was an attitude toward food. All
Mhm.
of a sudden, I was saying these things that I had never consciously said before. I had never heard them said in my home, but I had a mother who struggled with her weight. So it was, I hate food, food hates me, it never serves me. So it
Oh,
was all these things that I was like, holy moly, I didn't even know that was in there.
right.
So how can I change and shift something that I don't know is there?
Exactly.
So the awareness has to come first.
Yeah.
Then we understand we have a choice. Do I want to continue believing those things? Or am I willing to explore something else? Is that
That-
still my truth?
That's right. And that's hitting the nail on the head, because these are unconscious beliefs. 90%, or I think it's even 93% of what we think, do, and act out is based on unconscious belief systems, unconscious material. So, it, we know we have very little awareness of what's actually driving our behavior. We think we do. We think we know what's happening, but we really don't. And so getting into that unconscious and finding out what's there and molding how we go through life is literally life changing, because if you change the content, yes, the content and the context of what's in your belief system, you will automatically change what you think, feel, and do.
Yeah, it changes how you show up in the world.
Yes.
And that changes everything because it changes your experiences and your relationships. It changes everything. It took me from a very small world, and it continues to expand my world
Mm.
because I continue to find things in there that I didn't know were there. But it took me from a very small view of the world to, oh my gosh, there's so much more for me to learn and experience
Yeah.
within
Yeah.
myself. That's not even about going and traveling the world. It's about traveling the internal works of me.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's where the richness is, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, really fascinating. It's funny, this morning I was thinking, it popped into my head about, as it was coming up to showtime, and I was like, oh, it popped through my head like, oh, I should fix my hair because I just come back from the barn and my hair was in a pretty messy ponytail. I was like, oh, I should fix my hair. And I thought, "Oh, my aunt would be so proud." And I thought, "What? Like, where did that come from?" And I remembered as a child when I would come, like, racing in the door from being with the horses and my friends, and I would be, dirty and messy and happy. I mean, there would just be joy all over me. I would come running in and she would say, "Did you brush your hair today?" Right? And it was like, "What?" And as a child, that really went right to the core of me. It was like, wow, I'm being disapproved of. I mean, here I am really joyful and happy. And I'm learning that I can be disapproved of based on how I look. And the way I look is not acceptable. And of course, she didn't mean anything by it. It was just she was trying to make me understand that I needed to be more acceptable so that I would be more accepted. She was trying to do her part. And I thought about it today, if I were to go back there with my Oasis worldview, I would simply say, I'm not prioritizing the way I look today. I'm prioritizing my experience and I feel great.
Mhm.
Right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. I still did my hair before I came on, just to be clear. I mean, I did. Yeah. And I thought it's okay. It's okay you know, to look nice and to feel great. It's just that when it comes to the idea that, the way you look or what you present to the world is more important than the truth of what's going on inside of you, then we cause a split. We cause conflict and contradiction within ourselves, right? So the fact that I can look at that and say, oh, do I want to do my hair? But it's a choice, right? And I say, yeah, you know what? I'll do it. I have the time, I have the interest, I'll go ahead and do it. Fantastic. But I'm not telling myself that that's important because I need people's approval. Because as soon as I go seeking your approval, what I'm saying to you is no better than bumper stickers and bullshit.
And there it is.
And there it is. We knew that was coming out today. We've been saying it a lot this week.
Well,
Right?
you made the perfect point is in the battleground, there can be no peace
Right.
because in the battleground, there is conflict. It's somewhere. You might not even be aware of where it is, but it's there.
Yeah.
So when that awareness comes up, and like you said, you understand you have a choice. When you understand you have a choice, and then you make that decision and you are at peace with that decision, you're not going to beat yourself up. You're not going to question it. You're not going to seek external validation for the decision that you made.
Mhm.
You are truly at peace with it. That's the oasis.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that, you might have to make a choice between two really crappy things. So you pick the one that's least crappy.
Sometimes.
Yes. But if you're at peace with that, it's still crappy, but at least you're at peace with your decision.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. We're not saying the oasis is all rainbows and unicorns. We're saying we're at peace with the decisions that we make. We're at peace with the fact that we make happiness and joy a priority.
Right.
And we believe that in our oasis, we can collaborate and everybody can win. It can be a win-win-win situation. For
It
me to win,
absolutely
it doesn't require Kris to lose.
That's right. And one of the things that we learned over the course of the last decade is that in order to collaborate, you actually need to be able to get people connected in the Oasis experience. So if you bring in one or two people who are in the battleground and they are dedicated to maintaining that battleground control and you try to collaborate with them, it's not going to work um, because they're working win lose and they don't yet know, because this is not a belief, this is a knowing, and then you prove it to yourselves by doing it, by experiencing it, right? But the knowing that win win is possible kind of has to come first because not many of us have witnessed that in the battleground worldview. In that kind of mainstream world, we haven't seen win win. So Judy and I started saying out, and some of our colleagues, started out by saying we just know that win-win is possible. We just know that if you operate from your heart, from your intuition, if you follow your inspiration, that something better, something more nourishing and nurturing and something that will make the world a richer place will come out of that. And we're willing to do that exploration. And so we did. And sure enough, we found out, wow, collaboration is, it's nothing short of miraculous.
Hmm. Yes. And we know that there are a lot of people out there doing heart-centered work,
Hmm.
and they're struggling to find people to connect with doing the same heart-centered work.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the same type of work, just heart-centered, living in a place of truth and love and really wanting what's best for everyone.
Right.
We know you're out there. I mean, this is one of the reasons we're doing the show, the podcast, the webcast, is because we want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone, and we're finding community. More and more people are finding each other, finding community. And that's what's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You may feel right now the world is a very ugly place, but there's a lot of truth that's coming up that's been hidden, been hidden in the battleground.
Hmm.
So we have choices to make. Once the ugly truth is up and out, then we can figure out what to do with it.
Right.
And we're hitting that point where it's up, it's out, it's ugly. What are we going to do about it?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, when we start to find out that the battleground um, isn't all there is, and in fact, what it does is believing in the battleground, because that's what we do. We're taught to believe in it. And we're not even putting intention behind that. It's just what happens. It's when you're raised by people who believe in the battleground, and why wouldn't they? I mean, look at human history, right? When you're raised by people who've been traumatized across generation after generation, the atrocities that have happened in the world, the way people have behaved toward one another, it's no wonder that people think this is a battleground. And once you believe in the battleground, then you perpetuate it. This is the point. And believing in the battleground scares you and causes us to shut down our vulnerable hearts, because we don't want to feel that fear all the time. We don't want to feel that discomfort and that insecurity. So we shut down our hearts and we start living a little more from our heads, a little more from, I can strategize, I can avoid the danger. But what your subconscious and inner child considers to be danger, and what your adult rational mind would consider to be danger, can be two completely different things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like you had mentioned it. I don't even know if you said it in a show, um, but you had mentioned that the main goal when you are in zone 2 is to stay out of zone 1.
Yes.
You do whatever you can do, and that's where we develop these survival techniques. You do whatever you have to do not to go back into zone 1.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And, we hear people, whenever people use the word control, right? I want to have control. I want to be in control. I feel like I'm losing control. The control is all about this idea that if I can keep things the way they need to be, then I won't fall back into that overwhelming fear, that overwhelming sense of powerlessness, which most of us had as children at one time or another. Because the reality is, as a child, you don't make many of the rules. You're kind of subject to what's going on in your environment. And even if that environment is an absolutely lovely place, there are times as a child when, if you were in control, you'd make different choices, right?
Mhm.
So there is a sense of powerlessness, like, wow, oh, it's too bad you don't like the fact that, on this beautiful sunny day, you need to go to school instead of going out to ride your bike, right? It's too bad. Your opinion doesn't matter in that case. And so there's a sense of powerlessness. And we start developing strategies about how we're going to deal with the fact that we live in a world in which we're powerless. So what's interesting is, as you start going through this work, as Judy and I've been doing, and as many of you are doing, as you start going through that, you start realizing that we want to rewrite the way we approach things in the context of somebody who can make choices, who can decide, I'd rather go biking today. right? Yes, obviously there are pros and cons to our decisions. There are consequences to making decisions. And there are also times when grown adults can decide, I want to go biking today without anything negative happening.
Mhm.
However, and this is key, we live in the battleground and we give ourselves permission to go biking today. A lot of us will ruin it by beating ourselves up all day and telling ourselves we shouldn't be doing it, that we should be doing something else. We'll play the tapes of the powerless tapes of the parents telling us it's too bad, you shouldn't, you have to, of teachers saying it, whoever the authorities were in our childhoods. We'll hear those tapes playing all day and we'll suck the joy out of our day by beating ourselves up.
Absolutely. There is no peace in that. That is conflict.
Yes.
That's why we're saying that that move into zone 3 is about, okay, I'm going to go biking today and I'm going to be at peace with the decision that I've made to put my happiness, make that a top priority.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. And another thing I'm realizing in zone 3 is, you're talking a lot about having control. Having control implies that you know all the information.
Right.
We don't know everything. I'm finding out more and more every single day just how much I don't know.
Yes.
So I'm learning to rewire that belief that once the decision is made, it's etched in stone.
Right.
No, this is the information that I have right now. So this is the choice I am making. I'm at peace with it because I know that with more information, experience, and time, I could change that belief.
Yeah.
I am free to do that. And
Exactly.
admitting that I don't have all the information allows me to open that mind and receive all new information in. And that's been
Yeah.
very helpful for me.
That is such a good point because as we look at the world today, we can see that so many people are stuck defending their beliefs. They're arguing about their beliefs. Our beliefs are the ideas that we hold about the way things are, right? And in the world that we have in the battleground, they're usually opposing beliefs because that's how battlegrounds work. So, this side has these beliefs and the other side has different beliefs, and they're arguing about it. When you get to the oasis or zone 3, you start to want to understand one another, human to human. So you stop seeing the red and the blue, the black and the white, you stop seeing the differences or the visible distinctions, and you start seeing other humans and wanting to understand the way they're perceiving and experiencing the world, and wondering if we could work together to improve that experience for everyone.
Yeah. I it's like I want to erase the lines of division
Yes. Yes. I
and
just got
erase those
goosebumps when you
lines.
said that.
Yeah, erasing those lines of division is what opens the mind and the heart up to the possibility of win-win-win.
Yes.
Because we
Yeah.
are more alike than we are different. And I
We
know that's
absolutely.
bad, and I know it's probably a bumper sticker somewhere, but that one is not bullshit. That is real. We are more alike than we aren't. So those lines of division are the walls that are keeping us from seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that very idea that our belief is something to be defended, and that if we defend our belief that we're protecting ourselves, that we're keeping ourselves safe on the battleground by protecting our beliefs because we feel like our beliefs are solid. Okay, I don't know about the world. There are a lot of unknowns. I don't know about my purpose. I don't have a peace of mind. I'm worrying all the time, but I do know that this side is right. And so that gives me a sense of certainty, right? But the things that we're being certain about aren't things that will ever bring us peace in this world. It's always going to perpetuate the battleground. And so if we can zoom out for just a moment and ask, what's more important, my belief or my experience and the environment that my family lives in? Is it more important to have war or peace? Because
Is it more
as
important for me to be right?
yes,
Hmm.
yes, do I need to be right? Yeah. Or do I want connection?
Hmm.
Because our desire to be right, usually in the battleground, our desire to be right means making anybody who disagrees wrong. I have to make them wrong, and then usually I want to punish them. I mean, that's how this whole game works. And we're all suffering as a result of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That was so heavy. Um, and it's funny. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at knowing and trusting. And I think, this is the thing that you can't know, you can't know that this experience and how different it is until you've experienced it. So, with a belief, these are concepts, these are things you've heard in your head over and over and over again, and you've stored them as, well, this must be true because I've heard it so many times, and the people that say it seem convinced. And so, sure, I'll go with that. When we're in the oasis and we know something, we just know in our hearts what's right. We trust it.
Yes, that's the big thing. We trust it. I heard at the tip of zone 2, you're hearing it. You're feeling that something's off. Something's not right. It's not adding up. The bottom of zone 3, you start to trust a little bit
Yeah.
and you dip your toe in the water. And I always like to, when I'm encouraging people to trust their intuition, is like start with something simple that isn't life changing. Like you look at a menu and say, what am I going to eat? Whatever comes to your mind or your vision first, eat it.
Mhm.
What am I going to wear today? The blue shirt or the red shirt? Whichever comes to mind, wear it. It shows that it's a muscle that needs to be exercised. It shows that you're trusting what your heart and, dare I say, soul is guiding you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And let it go, right?
Mhm.
Make the decision and let it go. Because so much of the stress and the worry and anxiety and overwhelm that we have in the battleground experience is that we're making a decision and then we're questioning it and questioning it and questioning it and beating ourselves up and saying, I should have made a different choice. Once you've made that decision, you made it based on where you were at and the information available to you. So you made the decision, move on.
Yep.
Right? The next time it's time to make a decision, you can make a different one if you've now learned that that decision didn't benefit you or didn't work out the way you wanted, then you can certainly make a different choice. But the decision that's already been made can't be unmade. So putting our attention into that just drains our energy.
Hmm. Yeah. The self doubt wears you out.
Look for our t-shirts because Judy's designing a whole line.
Yes, but it's true,
Mhm.
and when you can get to that space of peace, and I know what you're going to eat and what you're going to wear sounds very little, small, but it's a big shift in you trusting yourself, trusting your gut. We hear about mother's intuition. That's what all this is.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna go right, but something told me to go left, and then you hear there was a big accident to the right. There it's the validation is out there.
Yeah.
And then when you're willing to exercise that muscle and you start with something again that is not life changing,
Mhm.
you know, it's very simple. Then it builds because the more you trust, the more confidence you get, the more willing you are to ask that question. Okay, what do I need to know today that's for my highest and greatest good?
Right.
And whatever information comes, you'll trust it.
Yeah, and we discovered something this week actually that was pretty cool. That was true for both of us, and we hadn't realized it before, which was that we both have naturally prioritized people throughout our lives, right? So if somebody needed something, if somebody needed help, then we prioritize that. Then we would stop what we were doing and we would help that person because we knew in our hearts that was the right thing to do. Right? Well, how many times throughout our lives do we get crap for that, Judy?
Quite a bit.
Quite
It
a
definitely
bit.
was something rewarded financially.
That's right. And people would criticize us throughout our lives, because of the battleground situation, people criticized us um, because we were not prioritizing our finances. Why are you helping that person? Why are you doing it for free? Why aren't you charging? You're not charging enough. What are you getting out of this? Why are you, giving everything away? You're not valuing yourself enough, and all of these other things, which when we took a relook at that and said, wow, you know what? So throughout my life, despite the fact that I had been raised and conditioned for the battleground, given my environment, I still knew, I was still connected to my heart, and I still knew what was right for me. And I trusted that enough to act on it. So guess what? This week, Judy and I both went, oh, we feel pretty good about that. Didn't
Yeah.
we?
I was like, so one of our greatest superpowers we were taught was one of our greatest weaknesses.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And what's interesting is that because it was presented as an either or, like you can either help people or you can have financial prosperity, then that was part of the conflict in the unconscious for both of us. We didn't know one another until, 6 years ago or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so this wasn't something that we were, noticing growing up, but we were just sort of comparing notes about some things that had happened earlier in our lives, some patterns. And it was like, wow, okay. So when it feels like it's a choice between doing what you know in your heart is true and being financially compensated or rewarded, then that puts you in a real bind,
Hmm.
right? And what we realized is it's not a choice, money or helping people. In the Oasis, it's both. I help the people who need to be helped, and I receive what I need to receive. I
Yes.
don't need to worry about the how, but as long as I'm thinking, no, I'm choosing people or I'm choosing helping people over money, over the rat race, if you will, then I'm actually saying, I'm sending out in my unconscious belief system, I don't want the money because that's in conflict with my belief system.
Hmm. Yes. And like we said, like Kris said, that was just something we put together this week.
Yeah.
So these subconscious things are coming up. They're coming up for this very reason, and it really just makes us laugh.
It does. It does make us laugh, especially because it was, I think we were talking about last night in a class, actually, some of the students about planes driving by, with streamers, billboards behind them trying to get the message to you. So all these things are happening in your life, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm really struggling with this and I don't know why. And meanwhile, like banners are going by, people are holding up signs, all of this stuff is going on. And then all of a sudden, the penny drops and you're like, you can see everywhere you look, there was evidence that you needed to make this connection, that
Yeah.
making this connection was really going to set you free. Because moving into the Oasis is all about breaking free from the limits of the battleground worldview.
Yes. So, with what we've learned this week, if you're struggling with something, ask to see the conflict, ask to find where the conflict is.
Mhm.
Because in finding the conflict, it brings it to the surface. Then you can decide, make the choice of do I want to stay involved in this conflict or do I want to move from it?
Right.
Because you can't heal something in the same environment in which it's created. So if you're staying in the battlefield, it's very difficult to heal the things that have hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and one kind of last thought on that is when we move into the Oasis and we start to be curious about what's going on, about why we're doing what we're doing, about what's in our unconscious belief system, then healing automatically, naturally starts to happen. So the things that have been hurting us and limiting us start to come up and actually act out in our lives they make themselves known so that we can see them and we can say, "Oh, okay, I can see that I've made this choice in the past and I want to correct that." So the healing process can feel um, like we're really in an uncomfortable spot, like all of a sudden bad stuff is happening. So it's important to learn how, and this is one of the things you can learn in our workshops, plug, but to learn how to maintain that peace so that when things come up that would trigger you, things that have been patterns literally since early childhood, that you can stay in that space of saying, okay, this is interesting. I can see what's going on. I know what I would normally do. And because I didn't appreciate or benefit from the experience of what I normally do, I want to approach this differently. So we can stay in that space of asking, what would different look like? What are my other options? And let ideas come, or talk to people that you trust to be able to support you in working through that.
Yeah, a lot of times speaking the words. And speaking the words, it helps you work through it. Like last Friday, I was totally in zone one.
Mhm.
And then finally I said the words, I'm totally in zone one and I'm fucking pissed off that I'm here. And as soon as I did that, it was like, it opened and I could get into zone two
Right.
and start working through some things in there and get that wider view of what exactly was going on. And because, we call it being in the realm of three, working through zone two.
Yeah. It's like staying, yeah, it is. It's staying in that place of peace and observing. It's almost like observing
Hmm.
the emotional state and the thoughts that are happening, but without buying into or engaging with them.
Yeah.
So you can watch it play out and you can even feel it. You'll feel the fear, the anger, all of the things, but you're not buying it. It's not taking over. You're able to just observe it and say, huh, that's interesting. What can
Hmm.
I learn from this? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, on that note, I believe we have run out of time. And
Yeah,
you mentioned the workshops.
I did.
We have workshops coming up on August 14th, Monday evening from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. And then Tuesday, August 15th, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And you can find them at masterfulu.com, www.masterfulu.com.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to get your map. Remember, so go to masterfulu.com//get-your-map to get an introduction to the map overall. There are some of the early videos that we did when we introduced the map, because there's a lot of complexity and there are a lot of layers, and it takes some time to really start to think more naturally or automatically in terms of the map. But being able to do that's really life changing because it helps when you step out of your belief system and you get into that observer space. It helps you to feel like you've still got some framework to work with. You don't feel so untethered. It's like, okay, I can see that I'm still within the larger context. I'm just outside of the limits of my existing belief system, which I'm probably doing because that was hurting me.
Excellent. So we want to thank everybody for joining us. If you like the information that you've been getting, please like, share, subscribe. And, our journey, our goal is to bring as much peace to you as possible so that you can learn to bring it to yourself.
Absolutely. Amen, sister.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.